and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. And thank you very much for joining us. It's another terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today, and we're honored to have His Excellency the Governor join us. Phone lines are available. We can have a chance to chat, to listen, to learn, to laugh, perhaps share a bit of love. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow, Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back. And if I may say, on behalf of all of us here at Radio Cayman, wish His Excellency and his family a very happy, healthy, blessed and safe 2022. Maybe that too should be TWO and not TOO. So good afternoon to you, sir, and welcome.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. It's a pleasure to be on your show again.
All right, well, thank you very much. And it's amazing, and I sometimes look at our personal lives, look at the things we will do in our private spaces, so to speak. The books we'll dust from our shelves to read. Sometimes just the pensive moments. But to appreciate that within the Cayman context, we're also integrated. We're also, inclined to want to reach out and help each other, and to see that charitable sort of spirit alive, and especially, during the festive season. It makes you grateful that we live where everyone seems to be so concerned, kind, loving, and considerate. And I trust that would, continue, even, manifest itself greatly this new year. So we'll see it happening, man.
I'm sure we will. And let me say a happy new year to you and everyone at Radio Cayman and everyone across our community. I hope everyone enjoyed a really restful and enjoyable break to the extent we can, given the situation the world finds itself in still.
Yeah, well, I join you in that, and I'm thinking as we look at what is happening globally, that we start to accept our individual responsibility, challenge where necessary those things, but be willing to champion to ensure it's a safe, secure, stable, harmonious society. But I wonder too, given the nature of what is, I guess the more intelligent amongst us, we talk about the geopolitical landscape. As that unfolds and changes, we have access to the news media, whether it's a small province in Canada or whether it's something happening in one of the remote areas of Europe, as it were. It affects us all. We have people from all over the world here. Our students travel and sometimes spend a semester in different parts, and we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
I should have to ask, we saw recently through the UK, I don't know how many of us looked up the press release. We sort of get an opportunity to be a part of the OTs and being incorporated. I use that word carefully. Would you expound on that for us at all in that invitation and what that looks like?
Which press release are you referring to?
Sorry, was it Citistatus? Is that?
The city status, yes.
Or status.
City, I think I would say status is an American way of saying it. I would say status.
Status
is more British way.
Okay.
But people can say it however they like.
My English teacher would be.
So 2022 will be an amazing year for Her Majesty the Queen, because it's the Platinum Jubilee, celebrating 70 years on the throne, which is quite an extraordinary feat. And I know that there's huge respect for Her Majesty here. Been to Cayman twice, and we will have a long public holiday weekend at the beginning of June, and we'll be celebrating the Platinum Jubilee. But one of the initiatives to mark the Platinum Jubilee is that in the UK, and for the first time including all our overseas territories, towns and villages and places in the UK can bid for city status. Now, a city is seen as something which is greater than a town or a village. So it's got a sort of a cachet or an elevated status to it. So it's and the Queen does confer city status on many places in the UK. Every year there are applications. So the overseas territories were offered the opportunity to bid, and I'm delighted that Cayman decided to do it. I think there weren't very many. I think the Falklands bid, and I think Gibraltar might have bid, but I think we were the only one in the Caribbean that has bid for city status. So there'll be the London office has pulled together, the Cayman London office has pulled together the bid. That's all gone into the machinery in the UK, and before June we will find out whether Cayman was successful in its application to be a city, which Georgetown rather than Cayman. So Georgetown would then have city status. I mean, it doesn't bring anything particular with it apart from the fact that you have the status. But what it does do for it obviously, I think, supports us on tourism because Georgetown would be a city, so it's something to sort of talk about and make a fuss about. I mean, it also I think sort of is supportive of Cayman's sort of history, tradition, and heritage going all the way back, and Georgetown, the sort of capital after modern town. So it supports a whole range of different things. There's no guarantee of success. I think there are 50 to 60 places bidding. I don't know how many they will choose, but I was delighted Cayman decided to do that. I think for me it reinforces the links between the UK and Cayman, and it would be a nice. It's not something that's given easily. You have to justify the reasons why, and as a good bid has been made for Georgetown, and I know the fact that it's a wonderful community, as you were saying, all sort of supporting each other and coming together, and that's a big part of it as well.
Well, it's one thing, I think, and I'm mindful. I love listening to people who understand sociology and politics and economics and those things, because I get to learn. And when we look at a historical context, and Cayman, say, versus other jurisdictions, whether in the Caribbean or Africa or other places, the relationship that we've had with the UK hasn't been as tumultuous as some other places may have had with their adjoining, borders and countries. US and Mexico had that issue.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right, and I would say that today the relationship between Cayman and the UK is probably as good as it's ever been. I think you could almost say that the relationship is a model relationship between the UK and an overseas territory, which I think brings advantages for Cayman and advantages for the UK as well. It's good to. I think the former Premier had a very, very constructive relationship with UK ministers. The current government has also got a good constructive relationship. Early days still, but that's very much the case. I mean, I in my three years here, I've made a real effort to try and understand Caymanian culture and heritage and tradition. And which is why I understand why Christmas is so important, because you go all the way back to the seafaring roots and when the men went away and came back at Christmas. Sometimes not even every Christmas. Sometimes every 2 years. So that sort of very strong beginnings, which was tough, really tough for a lot of people, has given, I think, the community here a really strong resilience and sense of community and supporting each other. Right. And if you look across the Caribbean, I think you can say that Cayman's culture is actually unique. I mean, that seafaring and turtling. You built something like 300 schooners in Cayman from 1900 to 1953. That's incredible. That is incredible. So that, I think that sort of culture, tradition and history, which you should be very proud of, and I think we need to do more to talk to our children about it. I think government's really keen to do that. Minister Bush particularly very focused on doing that. But you combine that with what I see as an openness to people coming from outside, and I think that comes from the seafaring tradition as well, because the seafarers went away, met people from other parts of the world, and then that sort of openness. But if you look at why Cayman is so successful compared to many others, that strong tradition, knowing where you're from, your roots, your heritage, your culture, combined with an openness to people coming from outside, bringing skills and talents and diversity, put all that together, and you've actually got a hugely successful set of islands, our 3 islands, with world-beating financial services industry, one of the best tourism products in the region, one of the safest law and order situations. Never be perfect, and there have been a number of incidents in the last 2 weeks which are of great concern, but still relatively we have a good law and order situation. So I think there's a huge amount to be proud of about the Cayman Islands. Yeah.
With respect to the city status, if that is in fact conferred upon us, I mean, for those of us who don't know, there's a City of London. Is that sort of city status? So City of London is the City of London, but a little bit distinct and separate in terms of the autonomy. What would it mean for Cayman if there was granted? Just ceremonial? And
it's purely ceremonial. There's no constitutional angle to it. The City of London is a bit of an anomaly. It's very, because the City of London, which is effectively the financial services centre, the sort of square mile in London, and that's got a history which goes back centuries and centuries, and they protect that very carefully. So there are some sort of bureaucratic and constitutional aspects to do with the City of London, but the city status is really a ceremonial thing. It doesn't bring about any practical changes. I mean, Georgetown remains the same when it's Georgetown, whether it's the city of Georgetown. But it does give. It's an accomplishment. It's an accolade. It's recognition. It's saying something positive about the capital of the Cayman Islands, and it's recognition from the UK as part of a process looking at a whole range of bids. So it would be nice if we got it, but we mustn't count our chickens before they hatch, as they say.
Right. But it just shows that there is not only the proactiveness, but the respect that we have for the relationship, the importance of the historical context of what is Georgetown. For many of us, even me, that not necessarily that old, taking a trip to Georgetown on a Friday evening or a Saturday, that was an outing. That was something very special. Christmas time in particular, the shops were open that much later. And you got to come out, and it was the city, it was the town. I think back to what you shared relative to Christmas, and it's something that I say, and hopefully people don't take it to mean anything other than a serious, healthy respect for our society, our culture, and what I believe is ingrained in us. At Christmas, a few days before, Christmas Eve, and a few days after New Year's Day, a national celebration where the country is there, festive, responsible, not having to worry a whole lot about making the country run. It was a day I'm sure you remember not long ago when the law firms and insurance companies had skeletal staff in that 12-day period. Right? So why not? But if I could ask, and I say this not in any way other than the absolute utmost respect, while I was looking at the application and really thinking, this is visionary. I think it's something that we should consider. We had discussions way back when of the governor's residence, moving forward is because of the amount of traffic and so on, and elevating the status, right? And one time there was a discussion, that could be a perfect place for the National Museum or the National Gallery. For me, it would be a great place for seniors, day center, connected to the maritime environment. And I was traveling sometime when we could travel. Remember, it was 2 centuries back. The big governor's mansions, down in the city center, part of it, whatever state in the U.S., and even 10 Downing Street for the Prime Minister. His Excellency's new residence in the city in the new city.
Okay,
would that be?
I mean, I would say that's not for me.
No.
I think it's a decision for the government, and it's entirely up to the government how long the governor remains at Government House, or if there is another arrangement. I mean, I personally, I think it would be a shame to move the governor out there, and I don't say that because it's a lovely place to live. I say that because of the history and it's been there for so long, and everybody knows Government House, and people love to come to the house. And I've tried in my time here. COVID has not helped us, but I've tried to get more people
keep it open
to Government House who've never been before. Yeah. And the joy that I see in people when they come to Government House for the first time, because of that history, because it's always been there, and that's where governors have always stayed. So, I mean, I would personally, I would hope that doesn't happen. But if a future government, if this government or a future government ever decides that is the thing they want to do, it's perfectly within their rights to do that.
If I may publicly commend you for, we understand, the importance of not just security but privacy and. Just even deliberations. I mean, we are in our own homes, small subdivision. We're living there. Yeah. There's no fence, no gate, and we're sitting by the dinner table. We want to know that there's a level of discussion between the parents and the children. A position that the governors occupy. You may be having the ministers over, the premier. I said prime minister. We're having that discussion. You still want to be able to do that. It could just be a private family conversation, and yet you have maintained that level of almost access that is unprecedented, and that's wonderful.
Oh, well, that's nice of you to say. I do see it as a key part of the role. I think we have a wonderful community, and it's nice for me just to get out and about and support the community. So many good causes, so many people doing great things, and I hope obviously this Omicron variant is raging around the world now, growing incredibly fast in some places, although not really here to the same extent. But I hope things will settle down and I can get out and about even more and support the community. But I have tried very hard to be open and accessible. I meet a lot of people from the community, and people get in touch and want meetings or a phone call, and I always try and do that.
And thank you for that too, because I mean that openness. And I say this deliberately, but hopefully they'll invite us as a community to look at what could be transpiring. In marked contrast to the growing number of gated communities, not just the new ones, but those that exist in the Watergate. It's one thing to do that for whatever reason without considering the potential negative consequence to dividing the society, to that parent, to that teacher that says, let's drive through this neighborhood. I had teachers that did that to us. Hey, you want to be an accountant, a lawyer, a teacher? Here's where you could live. Over there was a former student. And that gives you a sense of way to motivate a child. Not every child will be motivated that way. But if you can access something, it makes it difficult to perhaps show them tangibly, hey, this is attainable. This can be you. Maybe after the break we can chat some more.
Okay.
Always enjoy your company. You are a true diplomat, a true gentleman, and it's good to be able to laugh with you, but to learn as well.
Okay.
To our listeners, His Excellency will keep our company. We'll share much. He's always been amenable with his time, so let's hear what has to be shared. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And just as a quick reminder, His Excellency is with us. We are trying to be respectful of his time, so until no later than 1:15. It's not that we get rid of him. Certainly we could laugh with him all day long. If I might ask, certainly we're going to invite you to share as you wish. You've always been as forthcoming as possible. We talked about sort of relationships and interactions and the like, and maybe we'll do a column here. there, Marty. I have this friend. I joke and jest, but sometimes as individuals, we are not cognizant of what is before us. Here's a person in sort of the individual context has something or someone who's loving and giving and kind, and someone else who isn't, and yet we gravitate to the choice that we don't realize would be obvious. Not the kind person. We take this thing. What would you advise to that person? In response to that, just teasing you. But in all seriousness, within the Cayman community, we go back to our history books. We see unfortunate, notations of crabs in a barrel, notation of people being their own worst enemies, not just they themselves being absolutely critical of their own actions and achievements, but of each other. And in the Cayman context, we have so much to be thankful for. We have so much talent, so much untapped potential. We've seen so many great successes that we could celebrate. Wow, I didn't know little Georgie did this. Yeah. Look at little Mary, and yet we cry down each other. Yeah. I would like to see a rallying cry for unity, for us to come together and celebrate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you do. On the one hand, let's celebrate the fact that we have a very lively and vibrant democracy, and let's celebrate the fact that people feel they can speak their minds. They feel they can say what they want to say. And you look around the world, and that's not the case everywhere. And even I think all of us have a concern at the moment that democracies are going through a tougher time than maybe 10, 20 years ago, and there's a rising sort of authoritarianism, totalitarianism, across the world. So that's, I think we should celebrate that. But I agree with you that Cayman has so much to be proud of. And we should celebrate that more often. I mean, I was very pleased to announce a number of New Year honours, the ones from the UK, and huge congratulations to everybody who got those, including former Premier, who only the second ever person to get a knighthood, which I think is fantastic for him and fantastic for Cayman, and the others who got honours. But also I gave a lot of certificates and badges of honour, and through this pandemic, I think that's the third time we've done that with a much larger number, because we just recognise that in this pandemic, so many people have stepped up and gone over and above, and we wanted to recognise that. We wanted to thank people and show them that we really do appreciate it. So I think sometimes in the very small territories, everybody knows everybody, so the politics can feel almost more close. Yeah, it can feel very close, because I think in a bigger country there is a lot more anonymity. People can do things and nobody really knows who they are, but here everybody knows who everybody is, and I think and everyone is the relationships between families and friends, and I think that does create a certain tension that perhaps is not as great as in larger countries, but yeah, I agree with your main point that Cayman has lots to be proud of, and we should do more to celebrate each other and praise each other, and perhaps tone down some of the less positive comment that we all see.
Well, my prayer is for us to look and actively seek a sense of unity. Yeah. Let's champion our democracy. Let's disagree where necessary, but respectfully and responsibly. And I keep thinking to the examples within our own community. I'll be guided by yourself, but others. Not my comments are not intended to be offensive, vitriolic, divisive, anything. Not even political. But if in our churches, we visit our churches, and even if you're a member of the same congregation, but you tend to visit one with family and friends, you can see how people sort of look at you like, well, what is he doing here today? Is he in Rotary Club missing one meeting, so you go to the other Rotary Club to make up? No, you're just fellowshipping. Yeah. We look at the politics. We look at the PTAs. We look at the growing divide, and I'm concerned that if we're not careful, that authoritarian sort of regimes that we see spring up in democracies will become the norm, because we're guided by a great sense of fear to our economic loss, to our personal freedoms. without appreciating that we have to look out for the
Yeah,
individual.
no, we do have to. We shouldn't take those freedoms for granted. I think we're all watching very closely what's happening in the US at the moment, and you know, today, of course, is a hugely significant day. It's the first anniversary of the attack on the Capitol. It's a very big day in the US. But there are people who are really worried about the future of US democracy, and I think when the polarization between two opposing political camps gets to the level that it has reached in the US, you sort of hope that they can take a step back and think a bit about what you were just saying about the unity and coming together, because you know, it seems extraordinary that we're even talking about the threats to US democracy, but it is there. And you know, I saw a Canadian professor talking on the radio the other day, really thinking ahead 5-10 years about what are the implications for Canada if there is instability in the US, and heaven forbid, you know, he was talking about people politically having to flee the US because of who's in power. I mean, these seem extreme scenarios, but people are worried about it because of what we've seen going on. So I think here in Cayman, you know, we should really be thankful for our vibrant democracy, our freedom of speech, our independent judiciary. I mean, that is hugely important and a real asset for Cayman. We have a completely free and independent judiciary, which underpins the financial services industry by providing that sort of legal framework that people from outside respect and have the confidence to come to Cayman because of that broader framework. So we should, you know, the free media that we have as well. We know we do have a free media scene. I mean, I sometimes wish that people couldn't put anonymous comments on some of the websites. I think people should put their name against their comments if they want to make a comment. But I mean, that happens all over the world, and I don't think we're going to change that.
Well, we see the US, we see Canada, as you mentioned, but Australia. Equally, we're seeing challenges, we're seeing behaviors, and I was watching the Canadian news recently, and one of their, I make sure they're MPPs, because they're getting used to their political system in Ontario, making comments, and here are duly elected people in healthy democracies making comments, and we have to ask ourselves, you know, is this the 1930s and 40s when fascism and Nazism was rearing its head? Or is this the 21st century when you think of the freedoms and the understanding of the atrocities that have been committed over centuries? We should have moved beyond that. But are we moving closer to, you know, I don't know, that totalitarian regimes that we've seen in the past? With the... And I think with the census, we'll get a definitive number, the 140 plus nationalities that we have here. It's wonderful to walk our streets, to go in our town centres and to meet people from all walks of life, to go through our neighbourhoods, and sometimes even at our dinner tables within our families, there's some of us that have almost like a mini United Nations assembled around the table.
It is. I say that, but also understand why, as we build back better after the pandemic and we have to rebuild the tourism industry, I absolutely understand why the government is very focused on trying to get more Caymanians into the jobs in the tourism sector. I mean, I think it's a balance because we're not going to be able to fill all of the jobs with Caymanians, so we have to have a balance. I mean, I just hope that, you know, we don't go too far away from that openness to people coming from the outside, because I think that has absolutely been a key factor in helping Cayman do so well. But we do have to try and make sure that a lot of people have been hurting through this pandemic and have suffered economically, and we do. Government has a duty to help those people get into jobs and get their livelihoods back. Which is why I hope that, you know, we are slowly getting back to sort of fully reopening and having our tourism industry coming back. I think it is going to be slow. Obviously, Omicron has meant a bit of a pause because of that. I continue, you know, you won't be surprised to hear me say it, and I say it all the time, but the vaccine is incredibly important. You know, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the first vaccines arriving in Cayman from the UK. And I think we should be grateful that the UK has provided us with these vaccines, because there is absolutely no doubt now, it's overwhelmingly clear that vaccines have saved lives, and they are saving lives now. The single most important thing anyone can do in Cayman now is, if they haven't had it yet, is get the booster, because the booster it significantly increases your immunity from Omicron, whereas after 2 doses, that immunity is less good against the Omicron variant. So, and as it spreads so infectiously, there's never been a more important time through the whole almost 2 years of this pandemic to be vaccinated and to get your booster. And I am concerned that I think our booster numbers seem low to me. We're at 24% of our population has gone for a booster. I mean, I think there are a lot more people out there who are eligible for it but haven't come forward yet. The UK is up to, I think, something like 60% of eligible people have come forward for their booster, and we started around the same time. This is really important because this Omicron variant is so infectious that I think a lot of people are going to get it, and it will seek out unvaccinated people. There is no doubt about that. And the vaccine might not now stop you getting COVID, but it will stop you getting seriously ill and dying. And we've seen that. Look at the hospital figures in Cayman, which, we have, I think, 4 or 5 in hospital, which is obviously our thoughts and prayers are with those people and obviously with the people who sadly have lost their lives. But it's the vaccine which has enabled us to keep those numbers incredibly low. If we hadn't had the vaccine, I dread to think what those numbers would have been like and what that would have done to our community in terms of the potential loss of life. So my message, please, if you haven't had your booster yet and you're 3 months on from your second dose, please go and get the booster. These vaccines are literally life-saving, and no one can be any doubt about that now, given the billions of vaccines that have been rolled out and the overwhelmingly clear evidence that they save lives.
Mm-hmm. It is, I think, as you shared, a different time. You have to take that break, sir. Because of you, sir, we try to be respectful to those who are over there. All right, we're going to pause and take a short break.
Of course, you're in charge.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that. That's probably not the case. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion with His Excellency, so please, stay tuned.
At Subway, we caramel a lot about our customers, so we decided to give you 2 treats in one with the new Caramel Apple Cookie. Enjoy cinnamon apples, caramel bits, and salted caramel crunch baked in, and topped with a drizzle of caramel-flavored icing. Gooey, crunchy, and yummy. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious Caramel Apple Cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert, available for a limited time at all Subway locations. Subway, eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
As we head into the new year, the team at Travel Cayman want to say a very special thank you to everyone in quarantine and isolation from the people of the Cayman Islands. They know how painful it can be to sacrifice the time with loved ones, especially over the holidays. The community is grateful for all that you are doing to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Thank you for stepping up in these tough times. The goal is to protect all those who are vulnerable. This may include faces you do not know, but also many that you know and love. Visit www.exploregov.ky/coronavirus to learn more about the resources available. To the persons in quarantine or isolation, the Travel Cayman team would like to wish you a happy and healthy new year.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And in the studio, we truly have the wonderful company of His Excellency sharing with us. And if I might share publicly, one of our listeners on our messaging system, referencing inviting people on New Year's Day to our families for meals, and said that an extended invitation for breakfast, and they left until dinner time. that level of fellowship, I think, is what's great when you have good friends and family around, and you enjoy it so much that you genuinely put aside what you do. It goes back to what I think you were sharing earlier with the Caymanian tradition of Christmas time, the seafarers coming back.
Yes.
Wherever and whatever they wanted to be there for Christmas. If it meant working all year round without a break in order to finish the job with the hopeful expectation of being able to return for Christmas time.
No, that's right. I mean, that's a really nice story. I mean, I feel that. I mean, this is now the fourth Christmas we've spent in Cayman, and I've really felt just how important the Christmas period is here, and just what it means for family and friends to have that chance to get together. So that's a really nice part of Caymanian culture. And of course, the hurricane season is behind you, so. That also gives people a sense of happiness, and the breezes. I mean, the breezes this year have been quite amazing. The weather has been absolutely fantastic.
Indeed. Well, Your Excellency, as we were chatting, I have a few messages, and I do, openly apologize to you and trying to be cognizant of my directives from the director. Hey, pay attention to your guests, but also we don't give you these devices so you can look fancy. You got to pay attention to what comes in there.
Okay, you can ask me any questions you like. Go ahead.
One of our listeners were asking. I wanted to make sure that I have. Maybe I can probably read it as is, or just paraphrase. Talking about the earlier reference to our discussion pertaining to governance and the like, and. Understand that we have an elected parliament. We have the UK's representatives through your office and managing the day-to-day affairs, in the civil service. And paraphrasing what this person has written across for us, sort of asking with that balance, that check and balance on not just policy formulation and implementation, but relative to the good governance to ensure that. As we talked about, that growing healthy relationship that is now between the UK and Cayman, to ensure that we have that sense of continuity, but also sobriety and public credibility. Whether it's appointment to boards, relative to people's past experience and histories, to ensuring that the projects that the governments undertake are financially sustainable, are sensible. How do we ensure that continues?
I think that's a really good question. It's a really important question as well. And I mean, I think first thing I would say here is, there is an extensive level of devolved autonomy to the elected government. The Premier and his ministers have the ultimate responsibility for running Cayman, but the system of government that we have with a cabinet, so you have the Premier, I chair cabinet, and around the cabinet table you have the Deputy Governor, the Attorney General, the Cabinet Secretary. So when papers come, there's a balance around that table of views and interests to make sure that we get the best decisions, and we're taking the best decisions. I mean, there is in the Constitution a responsibility for the governor for good governance. So I mean, obviously, I take that very seriously. But we also, I think, have to recognise Cayman is a very well run jurisdiction. I know sometimes when you read that we were talking earlier about how perhaps we're very harsh on ourselves, we beat ourselves up too much. But again, you look across other overseas territories, look across the Caribbean region, look across other parts of the region, and it isn't that bad here. It's actually pretty well run, and we have high standards. We attach importance to good governance. I think the separation of powers is really important as well. So the separation of powers between the elected arm, which takes a lot of the decisions, and the civil service arm and the civil service responsibility for appointing people to various positions. So, respecting the Constitution as it is really important, and that, in a way, is the best means of ensuring that we address any of these issues. But people I think, again, in a small jurisdiction, people have views. People will want to give views, and they'll raise concerns, they'll raise issues, and I think that's just a part of healthy democracy.
We had 2 other comments from our listeners, and I just made notes. So hopefully, one had to do with judiciary, and one would do with the cost of living relative to employment and pay. The judiciary, we talked about it being independent. And this listener was writing to ask, well, how do we ensure that where there is need to access the judiciary, get before the courts, that the costs or the procedural sort of approach isn't so prohibitive that it inhibits that access? And secondly, I think, as I said, more importantly, if there is a complaint, we have the ombudsman relative to the police or the public service, but in the judiciary, to ensure if there is something that needs to be addressed, we have the this wasn't referenced, but I think, as you talked about the Constitution, we have the Judicial and Legal Services Commission. Do we have something to ensure that every facet of those 3 arms of government, that there is a means by which we can ensure that any grievance that may be, we can have that properly addressed, including the judiciary?
I mean, there are mechanisms there. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying they can't be improved, and I think there are some suggestions out there for where we could enhance those in the future. But the Constitution is quite clear on my specific role for the judiciary, but that is only really dealing with very sort of serious matters. The judiciary manages itself, and I think we can all show great respect for the Chief Justice and the job that he has done over very many years now. In fact, I think he's the longest serving Chief Justice in the region, and I think our judiciary is greatly respected, and if people have concerns, they should raise them, and they will be addressed, and I can give an absolute guarantee that any issues raised with me, and I think I probably know who might have made or asked the question that you are. Tell me, 'cause I'm not sure. I can probably guess, but all those issues have been thoroughly aired, and I am absolutely confident that there is no reason for anyone to be concerned that isn't the case.
We recall Sir John Summerfield appointment way back then, and heavily respected within the judiciary. So as you go, and again, sort of good governance, healthy democracies, and ensuring that we have this level of accountability, but also autonomy, and yet the credibility and respectability that would be within the jurisdiction, but also internationally. The other comment was in relation to cost of living. I think, as I scanned it during the break, it had to do with our hiring and ensuring that still this level of openness and access, and without maybe inferring anything from the comment, I'll just add to say that statistically, the size of our population, the amount of jobs, there will never be enough people on the island, Caymanians included, to fill the growing, increase in jobs because of the size of the economy. So we'll bring in. But this person sort of comments that we need to ensure that whether it's through minimum wage legislation or fair hiring practices, or like that, the pay isn't such that it exploits workers or displaces, Caymanians, for instance, to say, hey, we offer you $3 an hour. No, I can't do that. But someone else comes in and gladly take it. With that in mind, is that more?
I mean, these are clearly, obviously, domestic matters. So these are right in the sort of government's domain. But I think everyone is very aware of the cost of living issues. Things are incredibly expensive, and across the world, everyone is worried about inflation. I mean, I look at the UK now, and people are talking about inflation of 5%, 6%, even 7%, which is extraordinary, and sort of takes us back a bit, almost to the sort of 70s. We haven't seen those sorts of levels. I think a lot of economists sort of think that I think the view seems to have shifted. They thought that some of these effects would be transitory, but it now seems to be shifting, and they could be around for longer than we'd hoped. So I think it's the duty of governments, and I know this government is very focused on supporting Caymanians and supporting the community. So I know that they will be looking very close at this, and they've done a great job with the stipends and all the sort of social support that is provided to Cayman. There is a a significant amount of assistance from government to the people, and I'm sure that that will continue.
All right. And as we go into the break, maybe we would ask this and certainly revisit if you wish when we talk about governance, because I think many people probably think of the relationship of the governor and the elected probably akin to what? Oh, I remember when Mr. Russell was governor. That was 50 years ago.
Is it 50 years? Because in the 70s. Almost 50 years.
Almost 50 years ago.
Wow.
So things have changed significantly.
Yeah. But it's nice that he's still remembered.
I
hope in 50 years someone will say, "Do you remember Governor Roper?"
In a positive way.
They'll probably say, "Do you remember I'll be known as the COVID governor, won't I? Really? Because I was here when COVID."
It could be worse.
That's probably not something you want to be remembered for, really. But there we are.
You know what? It's amazing the things that we remember. But we want to ensure that people appreciate that the role of the governor and the role of elected has been, as you said, is devolving. And as we evolve our constitutional autonomy to some extent, we need to step up as a people to take more responsibility if we are a healthy democracy. So we wanted to ask, are there particular things that the UK, as the administrative power, ensuring relative to good governance, wants to ensure that Cayman does, whether or not it falls within the ambit of the elected government? But it's like a good parent. You're an adult child now, but hey, you need to make better choices, and you still feel a level of responsibility. So are those things?
Okay, happy to come back to that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, we're going to pause and take that break. I'm going to sip my tea. If you want to know what it is, it's ginger, a little bit of cloves, and some cinnamon. Hey, it's Christmas. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart. The soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Investigations are underway after a single car crash leaves a man dead and a woman seriously injured. Just before 1 a.m. this morning, police say the sedan they were in left the Esterly Tippets Highway near Cost-U-Less and slammed into a concrete wall. Turning to international news now, security forces killed dozens of protesters and 12 police died during extraordinary violent demonstrations in Kazakhstan that saw government buildings stormed and set ablaze, authorities said Thursday. One police officer was found beheaded in escalating unrest that poses a growing challenge to authoritarian rule in the Central Asian nation. Despite the severe response by authorities, protesters took to the streets again in the country's largest city a day after breaking into the presidential residence and the mayor's office there. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has accused anti-vaccine campaigners of speaking mumbo-jumbo when it comes to coronavirus jabs. The Prime Minister said those spreading false information on social media were totally wrong, and it was time for him to call them out. Some European countries are making vaccination mandatory, but Mr. Johnson stressed it was important for the UK to maintain its voluntary approach. Those are your headlines. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky. Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255. Let your voice be heard. And now, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thank you for joining us, and thanks again to His Excellency for sparing some time. And we want to be absolutely respectful, because after now he's going to go back, play a game of cards, get some lunch. No, this kid, he apparently has an important job to do in time as well. So thank you very much. Before we joined the caller line, we were asking, and if it's appropriate, what are some of those things that we want to make sure, even if it's us as the elected arm, that we need to be doing, that the UK would kind of say, hey, let's keep your fingers on the pulse here.
So I think the UK wants to have a modern relationship with its overseas territories, and it's right that elected politicians have responsibility and accountability for running Cayman and delivering policies. But the UK needs to be involved and aware, so that it's a British overseas territory, so the UK needs to be informed of what's happening. So on things like, for example, the budgets and finance, the UK wants to leave those decisions to Cayman, but there is the framework for fiscal responsibility, which imposes some checks and balances. So the UK would just want to be reassured that the budgets are being run in a sustainable and balanced way, which in Cayman they absolutely are. I mean, Cayman's built up a terrific track record of managing its budgets in recent years, and this government, I know, is absolutely committed to keeping that going. So that's one area which obviously we would look carefully at, because if ever the government wasn't able to run its own affairs financially, then the UK has to step in, because it's a British overseas territory and we would have an obligation to support Cayman. But that's not in Cayman's interest and it's not in the UK's interest. So we obviously would keep an eye on that. In all other areas of devolved responsibility, I think the UK sees its role as being able to provide perhaps some technical support. So on environment and climate change, the UK does, as it does in the UK, wants to see progress on in that area, because we all need to make progress in that area. So without putting direct pressure on Cayman, because it's a devolved responsibility, we would offer technical assistance, and I through my office we have offered to do work on climate change risk assessments. The UK has provided some funding on coral reefs, biodiversity, protecting the iguanas. There's lots of support there, but the bottom line here really is that we want accountability and responsibility to rest very much with Cayman, and I have partly a ceremonial role, but as a governor there are specific powers and there are specific responsibilities. So it is wrong to say it is just a ceremonial role. It's a mixture of both. But Cayman runs its own affairs and runs them very well from my perspective. So therefore, I think the governor's role in that context is a hands-off role. In other territories where that may not happen, there may be more need to engage. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I think it speaks to us as a maturing democracy that we are advancing incrementally. We know through the UK, by convention, after sometimes decades and centuries even of practice, it then becomes the accepted norm. For us, we should be mindful that it's not overnight that this thing becomes a thing. But let's join our callers.
Sure.
And good afternoon. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. How are you, Mom?
Fine, and good afternoon to the governor.
I'm not getting any sound.
Okay, just hold for me 1 second. And, all right, there you go, sir. All right. All right, thank you very much. I had to take the white wire and connect to the blue wire. No, just kidding. But we're hearing you now, okay?
Yes, good afternoon, and good afternoon to the governor.
Good afternoon.
And Happy New Year to you.
And to you as well. Thank you.
Well, we're not too happy, but we're trying to endeavor best. I just want to ask you a few questions, and I pray and hope that you can answer the best of your ability. We have a lady who goes in front of the administration building from time to time, and she also comes to your property on a 7-mile stretch. I want to know how do you play that role with her doing what she's doing? And is that being reported to the UK like everything else you just mentioned is being reported to the UK? And this human rights that we do have here, does that give her the right to do what she's doing? And I understand, let me finish please. I understand that for the thing that she's doing, she isn't, I can use this word, I could be wrong, she's entitled to do it, and it's like nothing anybody can do, not even you as a governor. And I understand that people have came to you from higher authority talking to you about this lady and nothing is being done. Please don't, I'm not judging you anything in that category, but this lady needs to stop, because this is going all over the world. And if the UK is getting these videos and knowing what she's doing in Cayman, I don't think that Cayman is doing the right job that it's supposed to do when it comes to protecting us and having some decency when it comes to our human rights and so forth. I would like you to answer that for me and I'll hang up the phone. Thank you.
I'm very happy to answer that, and thank you for your call. And I do understand your concern. I was also shocked by what I saw. People sent me the video. It was lewd and it was disgraceful behaviour. And I mean, these are operational matters for the police, and I don't interfere in operational matters, but I know that yesterday a lot of representations were made and complaints were received about the behaviour. But it's a matter for the police. I think there was some action taken this morning. I haven't been updated, but I know the RCIPS were outside the GAB today. So I think some action has been taken as a result of what we saw yesterday. But I do understand the concerns out there in the community, but this is a matter for us here in Cayman. It's not something that the UK would want to or ever seek to get involved in. It's a local issue for us to deal with here, but I think it is being dealt with, just to reassure you.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. And since we do have one other caller, I believe. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling, and good afternoon to His Excellency and to his family. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Happy New Year to you as well.
Yes, sir. Sir, it's just one question I would like to ask you, sir, and I will describe myself to you, and then Mr. Sterling can give you my number, and he can tell you who I am, sir.
Okay.
But is it any way, sir, that I could be able to speak with you personally for 10 minutes? And that is U.S. minutes, which was very quick. Sometime you call the office and they need to find out who it is. I have no problem with that. I don't have any criminal record. And then they wants to find out what it's about. But if I tell them what it's about, then I wouldn't need to see you. but it's you that I need to see, sir. But I met you at one of the Siemens meetings where I sang some songs there for you, and that is the best that I can describe myself. And I walk with a cane, so Mr. Sterling could tell you, and I would really like to speak with you just for, cut it down to 5 minutes.
Okay, I'd be very happy to see you. So please, I will get your name from Dwayne. But if you ring my office, I'm sure if we've met at the Seafarers, I do remember you. So I'd be very happy to see you.
All right, I'll pass on the details, sir. Okay. Hey, thanks very much for that. And we have a few minutes left for His Excellency, but we do have two other callers.
Okay.
Let's good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year to you all.
Yeah, man. How's it going?
I was just listening to that lady talking about the acts of the other lady on the road and after the government building at the governor's house. I saw it a few days ago, and I'm like, being a former police officer, where is the sort of the conduct in the penal code?
Right. But as His Excellency,
what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but it was dealt with earlier today.
But that's something really needs to be done about that.
Mm-hmm.
And one more quick comment, or a question, I should say. I would like to ask the government what's happening about the decriminalization of marijuana, because you went through really fast with the gay rights. I want to find out what's happening about the marijuana, because we got a bunch of young boys with convictions for that, hardly can get a job because of it, you know. And basically, it's most of the United Nations have already decriminalized it, and the UK is part of that. So I don't know what's taking so long here. I heard a rumor on the road that the governor and the premier is in a battle over that. So that's why I called to find out what the governor has to say about it.
Well, I can absolutely reassure there's no battle going on. I think that I know it's something that is being discussed, and I think it's been mentioned in Parliament as well. I think it's something that the government intends to bring forward. We have to make sure that we do that in a way that is consistent with international law and conventions on drugs. But I think if it is decriminalising for possession of small amounts, which helps people get back into employment, then I don't think there's a problem with that. I mean, I think if you're going much further than that and starting to grow it and then selling it commercially, that's where you get into more difficult terrain. But if, as I understand it, the sort of fairly limited proposal that is on the table, which is really about helping those that have convictions to sort of have those removed and make sure that they can get employment. And I think that's something we can go ahead, and the UK wouldn't have a problem with that.
Well, I'll never forget Chile, because I think it was the first country that did that, or one of the first.
Chile.
And the Chilean president said, "Why should I spend $1 billion a year on police and armored trucks and blah 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 for all this marijuana stuff when I can legalize it and make $3 billion a year?" And basically, if you do it the right way, government will make a lot of revenue out of it too. You have to get a license to sell it. There'll be certain amounts you have to get prescriptions to get it, how you want to use it, the oil, the herb, whatever you want. It has to be done, like you said, the governor said, it has to be done right. You just don't want to loose on the street. Because it's not made for it's not made for everybody. You know, it's like anything else. So I just want to clarify that.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so we'll take one final call
question.
With His Excellency. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, sir, and Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you. How are you, man?
Happy New Year to the Governor.
Okay, good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you, sir. I got to be solidified as usual, Sterling, right? The topic, right? And be confident as usual, the new year, right? And the previous call now, right? Of my topic, right? Sorry, 2 minutes, and the Governor leave 1:15.
Yeah, man.
Hear me out now. Hear me out, take my time now. You see the controversy with the herb plant, right? With the United Kingdom in Bermuda, right? With the convention, or whatever. Okay, Sterling, right? Half a decade from now, the Governor Roper, 2027. Right, it's an estimation approximately $28 billion in the herb market. Right, in our last budget here, the last one last year, is $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Right, for that sequence, that time duration. Okay, the herb is what I say, enough for everyone. See?
Right.
It has alternative methods of healing. Right, natural remedies to balance body chemistry and it toxics. Conditions or chronic disease. Okay? And this Governor over here to beat now. If you overset kind of drugs, when you deplete it, using it, it's addictive.
Okay.
Right? It obviously for your brain, ability to function, and optimal level of cognizance in order to train your liver. So I know in the pipeline now, in Parliament now, they're really that fade away, right? That's the lead. But I know in the pipeline to consider it. So I will ask the Governor if would he back this or back them, despite what we're going on with Bermuda. Instead, if you understand me, translate for me.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, man.
Happy New Year.
Okay. So I guess the first premise he's referencing relative to what's transpired in Bermuda and in Cayman. So if we are okay with that, and then when we move forward with Cayman and decriminalization versus legalization, the market, he says, in 5 years hence will be a $28 billion market. A country just announced a $1 billion budget. Where do we move forward?
I mean, I think that the point I made about sort of international law and UN conventions, I think legalizing or decriminalizing for small amounts of possession is one thing. Legalizing is something very different and I think much more problematic. I think that is on the table here. But I think that if we are talking about decriminalisation of small amounts, then that's something that I think the government has said it wants to look at. And as I said, I don't think we would in the UK there would be an issue with that. But some countries obviously want to go further than that, and other countries don't want to go
at all.
There's a very mixed set of views, and you have to balance the social impact, the economic impact, the crime impact. There's a lot of different factors to take into account, and this is an issue which a lot of people have very strong views on as well.
I think this is where and again I'll be guided because I don't want it to be political. I not even want it to be more than a social comment, but our society needs to weigh in from moral, religious, and other reasons as to what we should do, and understanding the medical implications, the impact on our health and well-being. I don't know at what extent, if we were to decriminalize the issue of warrants the police can use, how that could impact dispensation of justice and the like. Now, one person having, I don't know the quantities, so This is where I have to plead complete ignorance of the whole thing. But liken it to 6-pack of sodas or however much cigarettes in a pack or whatever. The person has a quantity of it for their personal use versus, I don't know, a ton. I'm not sure if you've measured in a ton. You would think, well, that's a lot. But some of us in our liquor cabinets have all sorts of collection of drink not to be consumed at once. Where do we get to that space?
Where do you draw the line?
And it's just for society to weigh in.
It is, and this is obviously going to be something for 2022, which we will come back to.
Well, when I become governor, we'll deal with it. Well, certainly always appreciate
thank you.
And invite you whenever your schedule allows, whenever there's an opportunity for you to share with us. And not only to you, the family, but to the entire country, a very blessed, safe, productive, unified year and centuries ahead.
Definitely. All right. Thank you very much. Very good to see you.
You're most welcome, sir.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to pause and take that break and come back and share some with you. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Captain Maybury Salisbury Kirkconnell, OBE JP, 1931 to 2002. Captain Maybury's career in public service began as a young man when he received medical treatment and would spend his school holidays assisting the local doctor on Cayman Brac. He was one of the pioneers of Cayman Brac Power and Light Company, Faith Hospital, and Kirkconnell Community Care Centre. He was a deacon at his church and often served as lay pastor, an opportunity he cherished. He was also a master mariner. Captain Maybury was elected to the Legislative Assembly in 1980 and served for 20 years. In 1996, he was elected Speaker, the second person to hold the post, and the first sitting MLA to be elected to the position. He did not seek re-election in 2000, but later accepted the legislators' unanimous call to return for another term as Speaker. He retired in 2001. Captain Maybury treasured his years in public service and lived by his motto, country before self. Although he and his wife, Marilyn Nee Parchman, had no children, they raised a grandniece, Otelia McKeever Scott, and Captain Maybury helped several Brac young people to obtain a higher education. Captain Maybury, Salisbury, Kirkconnell.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thank you very much for joining us. And thanks again publicly to His Excellency for coming into the studio. I think it's important that we appreciate, we value, recognize, and do all we can to ensure that we maintain a safe, stable, respectful, civil society where all of us are elders amongst, all, and above all, our children, that we can walk freely without fear of being harassed, attacked, whether by dogs on a leash and muzzle or by dogs that are just left to run and roam freely. To motorists being inattentive, and when we think of our political leadership, and to all, that we don't have to be like some places where they can't move about because of threats to them of perceived or even real fears of personal safety. So we're sitting outside in our yards, we're in our offices, or we're dining somewhere. We do that now without a second thought of our safety. And that's something we all need to be proud of, but actively understand and accept that it can be threatened. It can, be eroded. We don't need to look too far to our own personal travels, where sometimes we avoid places or we are fearful when we do go some places. And these are not the so-called labeled developing nations or third world countries. These are some of the industrialized nations. They may be even some places within our own shores. So let's not, take for granted, and let's not make it, acceptable that we have that sort of space or place within any of our 3 islands where we're not safe to walk and roam freely, where we're not, able to respectfully approach people in our communities, from the governor to the premier to any elected member to anyone. But we do so knowing that it's a person, so we don't want to, be disrespectful or confrontational. And even when we feel aggrieved that it's appropriate to voice our concerns, that there's a way to do it. I think back sometimes to parliamentary proceedings in some jurisdictions where you have 2 examples. You have the members or a member being supported by the others standing in unison and making a forthright plea, condemning the actions of either the government or some other entity, and then the others defending it, versus what we've seen, almost a free-for-all, a brawl within that parliament. It makes you think that it's something happening elsewhere. Well, we don't want that in our country. So we say that to say that we all have a responsibility to do all we can to make sure that this society is healthy and safe, and that we live, with a great sense of accomplishment, acknowledging, it's incumbent to do what needs to be done to make sure that it's a society that respects individual freedoms and choices. But there's a corresponding responsibility to appreciate that our actions have consequences. 949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Or WhatsApp 925-3261. I'll read a couple of WhatsApps that have come through for us as well. And I invite you to share your thoughts with us when you are ready to do so. Now, the interesting thing that we want to share, I can find this out. Where is this message now? When we think about where we are relative to the cost of living, and seeing how many of us are saying, well, we have more money than we have money. We're concerned as business people at the cost of getting the goods into our shores. Sometimes just even being able to find the goods that our customers want so we can supply them and meet that demand. To us as wage earners, how do we afford to pay for this increasing cost? I want to share this with you, but I also want to revisit the comment about the city status for Georgetown and ask you, what are your thoughts? Certainly wasn't intended to be an ambush, nor was it intended to be offensive, but think of the political residences for governors and presidents and prime ministers and the like. Is the time now for the revitalization, the renewal of Georgetown, whether the city status is conferred or not, that we build a new governor's mansion in Georgetown, take the existing one and use it for a day center for our seniors. It can quickly be used and harken to our maritime heritage, the exercise and social activities that could be had for them and with them at that location would be phenomenal. A museum-like approach to showcase much of our maritime history to ensure that culture is promoted and not just preserved, we can access it better. Would it not be a great place? I mean, as I said, I invite you to consider. We have globally, as we do here, places where our elderly and infirm are sent in their last and final days to be very lovingly cared for as their hours come to a close, whether we call it hospice or some other thing. We have other facilities, retirement communities and homes where we send our elderly to be looked after. Sometimes that may be months and years, because it's not just convenient, but it's ensuring that they get the professional care that they need. Well, if we have those types of facilities available to our community, and they're seen as an advance in healthy society, why not have something that celebrates their active lives and lifestyles so that they can go to? Now, for many of us, being able to get into the sea, being able to taste and smell the salt air, being able to feel the sun, perhaps our seafarers in particular, it may rejuvenate them and reinvigorate them and cause them to have a renewed sense of self and presence of mind, because they'll be reminded of their earlier years as seafarers. And perhaps there are very few of us who may not like it, but those that I know, the majority of which, give them a chance to sit and see the vista of the sun setting over the horizon as they look out on the water. That is probably the most calm and relaxing, wonderful, blessed experience. I heard many a pastor talk about being near the sea is where they feel closest to God. So would it be something that as a country we consider, ensuring that the residents of future governors are not only a safe, secure, wonderful place and constructed residence, but given the new one a renewed life? A quick hearken to our maritime heritage. A food for thought. Critique me, criticize, comment, compliment. Comment 949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255 or WhatsApp 925-3261. When we return, we'll read this WhatsApp message, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office. Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Kim and Brack and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
20 years.
Remember when Crew Road had no median and Linford Pearson was only 2 lanes?
We do.
When Dirty Reeds was down the street?
We do.
We have been there for the falls, the growth, and the rise. When your body and mind needed to change, Powerhouse Gym has been here. We've skated with you. Your first date, your daughter's first time on skates, your son's first strike. From football to squash, to karate and hockey, to bowling and concerts, and everything in between.
For 20 years,
so much has changed. Some for the good and some not so much. Through it all, King Sports Center has been here for you, for Cayman.
King Sports Center, celebrating 20 years as Cayman's home for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
The Honorable Minister of Health and Wellness, Ms. Sabrina Turner, would like to wish all Cayman Island residents a happy and prosperous new year. Prospect residents, you're invited to a free health screening by Public Health Thursday, January 6th from 4 until 7 p.m. at the Constituency Office of Minister Turner at number 33 Marina Drive, Prospect. COVID-19 vaccinations will be available. For more information on the health screening, call 746-9314. As we head into the new year, the team at Travel Cayman want to say a very special thank you to everyone in quarantine and isolation from the people of the Cayman Islands. They know how painful it can be to sacrifice the time with loved ones, especially over the holidays. The community is grateful for all that you are doing to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Thank you for stepping up in these tough times. The goal is to protect all those who are vulnerable. This may include faces you do not know, but also many that you know and love. Visit www.exploregov.ky/coronavirus to learn more about the resources available. To the persons in quarantine or isolation, the Travel Cayman team would like to wish you a happy and healthy new year.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome, Mike, and thank you very much for joining us. 949-8037, 949-6990, or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. It's going to be an open line for now until the show closes out in about an hour or so. And I always appreciate whether it's Miss Susan, DJ Akal, Lynn, Wilson, Archer that's doing the, behind the scenes today. I think it's good that we should turn the cameras from being on the host to those with the most who are doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes, and it's on DJ Lynn wearing that colorful Cayman blue, as I call it. So, Mr. Lynn, whenever you feel like it, man, pull up the microphone and join in the conversation, as we invite our callers to do the same. Read this quick WhatsApp for us, if I can see it. I think either I have to start wearing my glasses or get longer arms. I'll see how it goes. Yes, thank you to the caller, it says, for addressing the governor with the female's behavior at the government building. I predict if that person isn't restricted from there and restricted from any other location on this island, the people will protest. They will protest more if an indigenous Caymanian is arrested for a similar behavior. Now, we do know that the RCIPS, as His Excellency referenced, has intervened. So hopefully it can be addressed in a respectful, civil way, and any grievances can be dealt with, and allow people to appreciate that there needs to be a sense for individuals to make known their discontentment with certain things, to be able to publicly demonstrate. And then likewise, as individuals or as even a collective, that we have that level of sobriety and responsibility and respectability and decorum and the like when we do assemble to make our grievances known. So it's that fine balance at times. They say one man's meat is another man's poison. Your treasure may be someone else's trash. Or likewise, matter of perspective. 949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Or WhatsApp 925-3261. Honored to read this next message from one of our listeners. In relation to the cost of living, says, here's my point about that. Says, it's nothing for shipping companies to increase their rates anywhere from 25 to 50% or without notice. All right, let's revisit that comment in a second, but let's go to the phones first and give a caller's preference. Hey, welcome, good afternoon, and thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
How are you, sir?
New Year greetings to you and your family, my friend.
Thank you, sir, and blessings and all the best to you and yours for the new year as well.
Thank you. I think I need to pause while I'm talking to you. There's so much things in the island, shall I say, that it's not addressed, and all indications are it will never be addressed. Number one, we have too many people in this island that they don't mean themselves any good, so therefore I don't see that they mean us any good. We are in a society, how I see it, that we are, for the want of a better word, we're being doomed. Yeah, you got a lot of development, a lot of construction and blah, 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 but let's look at things in perspective. Let's look at reality. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
My point of view, those that want to do something about it can't do something about it, and those that can do something about it, they don't want to do anything about it. And the last thing you want to do is try to put them or advise them in any way to come to some sort of a mutual understanding. That is out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Is their way or the highway? Listening to you a while ago talking about the merchant marines, the seamen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't care who you are, where you come from, what kind of lifestyle you got. If you have never been as a seaman, a merchant marine, and I'm not talking about some little old 2 or 3 month trip. When you go there for 2 years and stay there for 2 years, then you realize the difference it is from taking a cruise or something else. Sterling.
Yes, sir.
When you look at the North Atlantic in the winter months,
yeah,
your dad will probably can tell you something about it.
What, even the cutters get frozen trying to, free the ships that they've come to help.
Up in Port Coteau, Canada, right?
Yeah, up through the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Then you have the other scenario of the heat into the Persian Gulf.
Yep.
130 degrees without any air condition.
And that's at night.
It's so innocent. It is so hot. You don't know it's there at night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All you got into your room is those blowers, some kind of fan that I don't know. They're pulling the air out of where they're pushing it in. But you can take a 5-gallon container, half ice cubes and half water. Take it and sluice down your bunk.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's properly saturated. Go back there in another hour and a half or 2 hours and you test your bunk.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me if you feel anything like moisture or water or anything. Okay? In those days, he was getting $95 a month and was more than glad to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It kind of broke my heart to leave here the first time. I wasn't even 17.
Wow.
Yeah, my 17th birthday was in Amsterdam, Holland. Among some of the old sailors, and they taught me the rest of the story.
I won't ask you to tell us, not on air, no?
Yeah. But it's something to see that seamen, merchant marines in this country, because if you say seamen in some countries, they don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Globally, we're known as merchant marines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you look at that and see in the island, they look at you like you're some sort of an object. The people that really laid the foundation for this island, a lot of them are gone long, probably most of them, and without any practical recognition. I'm not here to bamboozle or batten about it, but I'm here to speak reality. They should be highly recognized more than what we are getting. Okay?
Why is that? Do you think that there isn't that level of respect or recognition by not just others, but even by our very own, in our own society?
Well, I have to repeat myself.
Yeah, please.
Those that want to do something about it can't do anything about it, and those that can do something about it won't do anything about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And the reason why I ask you, if I may, is that, and I didn't say this comment at all to offend anybody, but if a society is going to show respect and appreciation for its people, if it's going to value its history and heritage, if it's going to support, promote, and preserve its culture, it needs to ensure that it does things front and center, right? Well, we've talked about building memorial parks to certain things, Centennial Towers for this, different things, and they may, in fact, be good gestures, right? So the comment I made earlier, in the presence of His Excellency, and hopefully it wasn't an affront to him, hopefully it wasn't taken as such by anybody, right? If we consider, 1, the privacy, and 2, the security, and 3, the change in dynamic of what governance is in Cayman as well as in other places, and the need sometimes for maybe a purpose-built facility to house an executive like a governor, then maybe we need to consider as what's the word that we use nowadays for legislation and other things, bespoke. Maybe we build a new residence for the governor. We put that in Georgetown. I certainly would suggest different areas for specific purposes, and we take the existing residence, let it be a community center of sorts, serve as a daycare perhaps, and emphasize its use for our seafarers or elderly, connecting us right and immediately, directly to the sea, using the gardens for exercise as well as for tours and exhibits and the like, and show that thing, because I am, again, mindful that the only time some of us will ever own or get to reside on beachfront property is if we have a vault in Dixie or 7 Mile Beach or West Bay Cemetery or somewhere where the graveyards are still on the beach. Other than that, we won't live or rest in such a nice setting. So why not use, for the living, such a majestic setting?
I want to maybe remind you of something if you're not really conscious of it.
Please, yes.
It really pains my heart to see over merchant marines, seamen, or whatever you want to call them, buried in, you want to call it swamp or wetlands. Come on. We should be like other countries. United States, you got Arlington National Cemetery.
Right.
While we may not have been in the war, or sure as hell, some of us was on supply ships that carried ammunition into other countries like Vietnam or Korea or something else that supplied the ships with whatever they needed. And not because we weren't in military action on the front line, that doesn't say that we were not active. I am saying to you that I think I'm sure it's a national disgrace that our seamen has to be buried in something else except a normal dry piece of land. Why not? And so when I say that people that would do something about it, they can't because they're not in authority, and those that is in authority that could do something about it, they will not do anything about it, my friend. And I will challenge any of them to show me what is your plan, show me what you have accomplished, show me what you have done really to say that, yeah, all right, you gave the seamen a little few $100s or something like that, but money is not everything. Respect goes beyond money sometimes, or most of the time. So I would just like to say to the whole Cayman Islands, a blessed New Year, and hopefully those that are listening will take what I say in context, not out of context. But it's high time that Caymanians seamen especially, be recognized. And if you haven't been where you got a couple of good years salt water in your face and a couple of good seasick and homesick, then you cannot give account of what we went through. Okay?
Right.
Yeah, but I could say much more, but leave that for today. I'll come to chapter 2 another day, okay?
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate you taking time to share, because as you relayed your thoughts, a couple of people listening have also weighed in and sharing, as this listener says, the importance of preserving what we have. If we own a piece of property, whether it's beach or otherwise, and we decide today to sell it and we get a whole bag of money, well, that's money that we have now, but what is there for tomorrow or for our grandchildren and the like, and we have to pay attention.
Right. Well, Sterling.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, before I go off.
Yes, sir.
Some of our Caymanians, I want to address that, that sold their property. They were not that, for the want of a better word, they were not that bright. Somebody put $2 $5 bills under their nose and they thought it was glory. Other countries, and I know individuals that own lots of property in Argentina and Brazil especially, that bought this land just like Cayman, but much larger quantities in property. The Brazilian government has now, through the enlightenment of, let's say, European and other countries as well, apart from Europe, has talked to the people that you sold this land. These people are going to destroy your vegetation. You're going to see a difference in your land, your rainfall. You need to do something about that. The government says, sure, you're right. So they go to these landowners and say, look, I'm sorry, you can't touch it. You cannot touch it with a 10-foot pole. Besides that, they had these people into the forest that was doing all of the work from getting the logs, and they had heavy equipment. They bought them out of the country. You never heard nothing about that. A lot of those people, or I wouldn't say a lot, some of them are in Cayman, buying anything they can get their hands on, and nobody to say, well, I'm sorry, you bought this land from this family, but we need to see into that. Any country that anybody can come in and buy the property and do as they like, I'm sorry, not because you own the property that you think that you can just go haywire and demolish and build up monstrous structures and just literally destroy, especially a little island like Cayman. Look around here. Look where I'm looking at now. Nothing but concrete. And I'm in Georgetown, okay? It is something to think about. I mean, come on. This is what I'm talking about, authorities. Not because you bought the land, you can tell me about he bought the land, you can't tell him what to do with it. That's only in places like Cayman.
Well, it seems to be that we turn a blind eye to a lot, or give passes to many for no apparently justifiable reason. But you are right, man, and thank you for people like you for reminding us, but bringing these things to the fore, so at least we are cognizant of it and maybe open to choosing a comment. All right.
All right. Pleasant day. Thank you.
Sir. Blessings to you. Thank you as well. And we'll take a break. Start the instructions, my friend. And the phone lines are open and available to you if you want to call and share your thoughts. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
At Subway, we caramel a lot about our customers, so we decided to give you 2 treats in one with the new Caramel Apple Cookie. Enjoy cinnamon apples, caramel bits, and salted caramel crunch baked in, and topped with a drizzle of caramel-flavored icing. Gooey, crunchy, and yummy. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious Caramel Apple Cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert, available for a limited time at all Subway locations. Subway, eat fresh.
CUC reminds you to always be aware of power lines. Before operating machinery, erecting scaffolding, trimming trees, drilling wells, digging holes, or carrying out construction work near overhead or underground power lines, always check with CUC customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky to ensure your plan of action is safe. Safety first with CUC.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. This year, a new rule was placed on fishing for grouper that says no one can fish for nass or grouper anywhere in Cayman from December 1st to April 30th while they're spawning. There is also no fishing allowed at all for any kinds of fish in the spawning zones, and no scuba diving there either. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. Always grateful to the, many comments that we hear, the perspectives that were shared, the opportunities for people to feel engaged and to understand and appreciate that it is through our dialogue that we actually can achieve great things. Those who speak and those who are prepared to listen is important as well. Now, a couple of comments. One we started to read earlier, and we'll just do that again. And then this other one. This listener references caller earlier and says, I fully support the caller yesterday that asked for a worker to be assigned to clean up the litter before or immediately after the commercial lawnmower cut the grass and litter and exposes the bad habit of litter. So yesterday, if you missed it, they were talking about the roadside cleaning, and sometimes we see I call them the bush hogs, those large tractors with the blades cutting the sides of the roads, and some callers have indicated that in many instances, once that happens, it makes the side of the road looks even worse, because then it's nice to cut, but then all of the unfortunate behaviors or people throwing stuff on the roadside. So suggesting that before you do it, kind of we probably do in our own yards, go and pick up stuff so that we don't damage the blades or cause injury, and then have it happen. So let's go to the phones though. Good afternoon, welcome, thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling Dwayne. How are you doing today?
Very well, blessed for sure. How about yourself?
Still here off regular poor, so I'm ugly. But very, very thankful and blessed.
We are indeed.
Yeah. I have to give an answer to that last caller,
Mm-hmm.
Because if you buy a piece of land,
mm-hmm.
and I check to see what can be done on it,
mm-hmm.
let's say I buy in a residential area.
Right.
And I want to put down 5-story house.
Mm-hmm.
Just for argument's sake.
Just for argument's sake, right.
It's in a residential area.
Mm-hmm.
It's a house, you're going to tell me then that I can't build it?
It's interesting that you share that, because you would think that if you build in a residential area, a residence, right? Why should it matter if the height is within the allowable legal height of buildings, generally speaking, right?
Precisely.
Now, but go ahead, because I have another sort of thing to ask of you as you share that. But go ahead.
I don't buy what he said.
Mm-hmm.
Not even with a grain of sand.
Okay.
Because you want my money for the land, but you want me then now to do what you want me to do on it.
Okay. So I think you have an argument, but let me ask two things, right?
Sure.
Let's say, again, residential area, you're going to build a residence, but you decided for whatever reason you want a 5-story house. Now I think, and I'm not going to be in any way absolute about the height, but I think there's a height, whether it's 30 feet, 40 feet, 33 feet, 35 feet.
I mean, I want to throw that out there.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, right? And we've seen people skirt that in many ways. I mean, we see it in some places, and very evident. Must be because of who it is, I guess, gets by. But nonetheless, to me, if you're allowing 10-story buildings, should it matter if it's a 10-story residence, right? For argument's sake. But what about the right to light and the right to views? For instance, we know in some jurisdictions, apparently, if you build a property on a property, that the people who are sort of in front of you or behind you, you can't impede their view. They can't block yours if they enjoy a view to the water or to the forest or what have you, right? I wonder to what extent
if there is a covenant.
Well, that's the other thing. But maybe there's more than just the covenant, the sort of easement. So is that being protected and preserved is something that we're cognizant of. But then what about covenants, right? So we want to build in a residential area. We own a property, and that property in and of itself allows you to build this, or this. But you've now bought in a residential area, and the covenants say, you can't build. You can only build a single family home. Has to be a minimum of 50,000 square feet, right? That sort of thing. I mean, should those? I know we have the news break to take, but should those things be something that need to be looked at? Because what are they doing for private property owners?
Yes, that's fairly doing. Like I said, it has to be a covenant. If you don't have a covenant, it is like I use this word loosely. A free for all.
Right.
Because you can't tell me then that I can't build the 5-story building, 5-story house.
Yeah.
Once it applies to or abides by all the laws and regulations.
Right.
Not because I have the money and you don't, that you're going to tell me that I can't do this, or you have the money and I don't. It is wrong.
Right. But are we?
It is wrong.
Yeah. Are we at risk of private landowners being negatively affected with the use and enjoyment of their land because now they are in a, again, for want of a better word, a subdivision with or without covenants? Now, not that it creates a nuisance, not that they offend any laws and what have you, but if they can build a house and should it matter once it complies with the planning requirements, right? Now, we do know that there's some restrictions on the heights of houses and what have you. We have the news, though. Are there other things you want to share with us, or you want to talk later?
I'll hold on.
All right, yes, please. All right, let's pause and take that break, and when we come back, more Talk Today.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Cayman National Bank is alerting the public to a phishing attempt in circulation via text message involving Cayman National. The bank stresses that this message is not from Cayman National, and if received, you should not open or click the link in the message. If you suspect any phishing activity involving Cayman National, contact their customer support team immediately at 949-4655. In international news, U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday forcefully condemned Donald Trump's election big lie that sparked the deadly breach of the Capitol by his supporters and continues to motivate deep national division. He marked the anniversary of the insurrection by declaring he will stand and fight for the soul of America. Biden's criticism was blistering of the defeated president, who he blamed for the attack and that has fundamentally changed Congress and raised global concerns about the future of American democracy. The U.S. is urging that everyone 12 and older get a COVID-19 booster as soon as they are eligible to help fight back the hugely contagious Omicron mutant that's ripping through the country. Boosters already were encouraged for all Americans 16 and older, but Wednesday, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention endorsed an extra Pfizer shot for younger teens, those 12 to 15, and strengthened its recommendation that 16 and 17-year-olds get it too. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, BCDC's director, said in a statement Wednesday, "It is critical that we protect our children and teens from COVID-19 infection and the complications of severe disease." Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shana Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for calling, and thanks to our caller for being so amenable and allowing us to take the break. But you were sharing, sir. It certainly is a timely topic to discuss. So your thoughts on land ownership and the rights and stuff?
Yes, if you got a subdivision,
Mm-hmm.
or you bought a big parcel of land and going to subdivide it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, there's certain things that should be met or should be done within that subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
If you take, for example, Frank Halls.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Hall has bought several parcels of land in Cayman, has built, you would say, many towns, I would call them, up in there.
Mm-hmm.
They look nice. They're
Yes.
all, you would say, of the same size, stature, and whatever else.
Right.
And far as I know, he does have a covenant on it as well. You can't build apartments on it. Yeah, you can do a duplex, but no more than a duplex.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I go in there and I buy even, let's say, 3 adjoining lots, it still doesn't matter. The same covenant is there for it.
But should it be?
Yes.
Okay. It's just a question. I mean, I'm just...
Yes. Because while I may still want, you would say, the privacy, because I buy 3 properties, I can put my house in the middle property or duplex, I can't be allowed to take and, you would say, make it commercial, because that's what apartments are, commercial.
Right. Well, okay.
So you can't do that. I mean, a covenant is a covenant, and you have to honor that. So it doesn't matter how many pieces of land you buy together. You could buy 2 acres together.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Now, it is one thing if you buy into an established place. What about a scenario where, let's say you've owned property in there, and I'm thinking of legislation that in the past, and I think it's the practice anymore, but in the past they would make it retroactive, and now I think that's not a practice. But so you buy somewhere, and let's say you have the 2 acres, but now there's a covenant, or there is a practice, or even an objection by your adjoining landowners or others in the area. Should that somehow affect you to say, well, I on this property I can do this under the planning legislation? Should I not be allowed to do it?
Let me give you an example, Sterling Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
Frank Sound area is designated as agriculture, most of it.
Right.
There's several areas up there that have, you would say, subdivisions. But some of those subdivisions, you have to own an acre of land in order to put your house on.
Right.
Because that area is designated as agriculture, and that is the stipulation, I think, to the laws.
Yeah, there's some zoning that says agriculture, and yeah, right. The zoning of it.
So if there is a piece there that's let's say acre and a half, and you want to say, well, I'm going to take and sell a portion of it. Yes, you can. But I think the stipulation there is you must have an acre in order to build on it.
So that
you can use that piece that you sold, less than an acre,
but
for agricultural purposes.
Right. Well, that begs the question, and I do respect that we have another caller, but that begs the question that given the scarcity of land, the increasing price, should we seriously reconsider how we use our land? Let's take, for instance, you have in other places a recognition because of those factors that they use land much more sensibly, not just to increase density, but to use it effectively. In the Cayman context, we've seen families over time take and they build within that property different structures, right? So if that was properly managed and assisted in the development, we could end up with multi-generational families right within the property and keeping that close-knit community family feel, right? Do we need to reconsider how, whether it's the zoning or however we term it, how properties are used? A gentleman who has identified himself many times and his expertise in his former roles have called publicly to share that maybe if we're looking at economies of scale and you were to build on a property one house versus maybe 4 houses to allow those families, or we could address some of the crisis that could be coming relative to housing shortage. Is this the time now to really rethink that and to come up with something that allows us to
Sterling Dwayne, the laws are there, but we need to have them enforced.
But do they need to be amended as well?
Line. Because you can go into planning department, make an application for a variance,
right?
And if you have no objectors, 9 out of 10 times you get the variance. That's not right. The law should be the law, and that should be it.
Right, exactly.
Whether it affects me or it affects you.
Right.
We know that this is the law. That's why we read it for the variance.
Right. And the thing is, it begs the question, as you shared, why have the planning board or the planning authority? Why have the law if it can be sort
amended or broken?
Right. And then think of the case where, again, I don't know offhand if it's 500 feet or 5 inches anymore, but in the cases where the notification area is a certain distance, right? But the landowner of that large tract is sufficiently vested in an entity that says, well, all of the adjoining owners are one and the same. So notification.
Exactly. I was going to mention that.
Right. And I mean, for me, if you own a property and it says you can build this on it, then you should. The planning, the regulatory process should ensure that it's built safely and sensibly and the like. What perhaps needs to be enforced is if you're in a residential area and someone is doing a commercial activity, or for argument's sake, even something like border work and painting and that sort of thing that could be a public nuisance, could create noxious fumes, right? We need to seriously look at enforcement to ensure that it doesn't occur. But we seem to turn a blind eye to that. Yet the farmer, is in an established area, and as the residences spring up, we hear allegations that the farmer now is being pushed out. So we wonder, what are we doing, and why are we doing it?
You see, we don't need to eat, you see.
Well, Mr. Otto Wattler once said, it seems that we have this notion that, we can live without food, but we can't live without money.
Yep.
So, you're right, my friend. Thank you, man.
Yeah, take care.
Blessings to you. All right, before we take the break, let's take this other call. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey,
Happy
good
New
afternoon.
Year to you.
And to you, Happy New Year.
And let me ask you, how soon are you going to take the break?
Okay, we can, if it's convenient for you, he said we can take it now. We got 1 minute and 40 seconds before we take the break.
Well, take the break now and I'll wait.
Okay, such wonderful people. Let's do that. Stay tuned.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is open line, and we have such a wonderful caller, so amenable. So we go back to the phones. Hey, thank you so much for holding on.
Oh, you're most welcome. And before I say anything, I'd just like to wish you and your family and your Radio Cayman family all the very best for 2022, and I hope that it will continue thereafter.
Amen. Well, thank you, and to you and yours as well.
Thank you. Dwayne, I caught the show a little bit late, but I caught the, one part of it sent up my red flags. And that was about subdivisions and so on and covenants. And I would just like to say that when people have property and they apply for a subdivision license or permission, they are covenants. That's part of the criteria they have to meet. And when you purchase the property from them, everyone has to sign that covenant, okay? And it tells you, even what you can use as roof on your house.
Right.
And, for example, where I am, there could be no apartments and no duplexes. Now, there were certain people who breached this, and then you called and you made a report to planning. The problem you have is planning ignores it, and it depends on where the property is. For example, if I had been in the heart of South Sound, they would have sent somebody out to stop immediately. But unfortunately, I'm Caymanian, so I couldn't afford to buy in South Sound. If the covenants are not respected by planning, when an application is put in, then they shouldn't stress the property owner when they want to sell their subdivision into blocks of or parcels of land. Okay? Another fine example, right behind me, the property sold. About 7.5 acres of property was bought by a developer who is doing something very similar or doing the same thing that Frank Hall is doing. And I am here to tell you, not one of us was given any notice of intent, okay? Not saying that we would have objected, but none of us got notified. And when I called about it, not to complain or anything, I was just calling, and and this has been for some time, more than a year, and I asked, because my neighbors were checking with me and we were checking with each other, none of them received anything, because I thought maybe I had just been overlooked in some way. And none of them had received anything either. And recently I had to call because I had a concern. Let me stress, not a complaint, but a concern.
Right.
And I spoke about not being notified again, and I was told that that maybe they didn't have my address or something to that effect. I said, well, everything else that has gone on in here, I've been notified. So why would they lose my address now? Anyway, I was then told, I don't know whether they changed their system or what, but it seems that they have, and it's defaulted to their old information. So the address they're telling me that they have on file for me is my mother's old postbox number, and I wouldn't like to tell you how old that is. and then I have to pay $50 in order to get them back my box number.
Yeah.
And I've inquired about this in many different ways, and you know, I've been told different things that happen. But the point I want to make here is that once it is sold as residential property, then it should only be residences. If the covenant says no more than 2 stories, then no more than 2 stories.
Okay.
And if you want to build chicken coops and cattle and stuff, then go and find somewhere else that don't have stipulations on it. Because like I told a former Minister of Agriculture, you know, because we had a problem down here once. Thank God we got it rectified. You know, if I wanted to live if I wanted to build my house in a chicken coop, that's what I would have bought. So I say the same to anyone else.
Right.
When we're all, you know, wanting to have our own homes, we have chosen somewhere we'd like to live, and obviously what we can afford. So my advice to anyone would be, before you purchase something, check and see, does it have a covenant, you know, and look at it properly, maybe even speak to the previous landowners and stuff, and find out if there were any other problems, you know, with this matter. If you want to do something industrial, then go and purchase land in an industrial area, because I'm here to tell you, if anyone were to come down in here wanting to start anything industrial, I would lead that pack in objecting to it.
Right. And I think that's understandable, you know, residential should be residential. But if I just for part of discussion and maybe even further, you know, elaboration and the like, residences, we use the word residences. You have a property and it can accommodate one house or 2 houses that we call a duplex or 3 villas or the like. Should the residence, if it's a residential area with covenants that says only residences, should it matter how that residence is comprised, whether it's 3 or 2 or 1, if it's can be allowed and fit per the planning regulations on that property?
Well, actually, I omitted to say my covenant said single dwellings, which we all interpreted to mean, and it also went on to say, I guess for those who didn't have a clear understanding, no duplexes, no apartments.
Yeah, no, I think it was specific now, but I was just wondering, given that, it's just a general question, given the nature of home ownership globally, and we can see it here as well, and the cost of you know, living and the cost of land. I wonder if we're looking at our properties, and as I say this, I'm thinking to some of the housing crises that we've seen, even in Australia, that has, you know, vast undeveloped land. We've seen in other parts of the world where people there's not enough housing. Cayman, we're complaining about the cost of land, not just for the first time homeowner, but even those who may have a few extra dollars to spend.
I don't know if my answer will make sense to your question, but let me just say this, and because I heard a call or someone speak of it a little earlier, or maybe it was you talking about running out of land or whatever. You see, that expands into much broader things, where our governments, and I'm not singling out this one, I mean any government needs to look at this and apply some foresight. We're at this point now where we have a major problem. They need to think what's going to happen 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the road.
Right.
You know, it comes to a population problem. That's one of the problems.
Right.
So I say that pretty much all of our land mass has been spoken for in some way or the other. If we have a few pockets left, and it's to be for dwellings, perhaps what they should do is say, listen, we will approve your plan, but, you're going to have to do townhouses. You're going to have to go up more than one story because that's the only way this can work. And for the simple reason that we're running out of land.
Right.
Then they need to look at that the other way and say, we've got too many people here. We don't have anywhere else to put them. And then stop that at some stage. But it takes a lot of people not a lot. It takes a few people with some wisdom. And it also takes an administration that's willing to sit down and listen to the people and their concerns.
Right.
They're in offices sitting down, dealing with whatever they're dealing with. They're not on the ground experiencing the problems.
They're not feeling it right then and there. No, your answer, as all of your comments, always make good sense. And I think this is where, we need to start thinking, as you said, not just 10 years, but 50 years from now. As you were sharing, I'm just taking a mental drive across Grand Cayman because I'm a little bit more familiar with the turns and twists of the roads, and I can see buildings that are 3 stories. I think the words that they use in our flats. So on the first floor there's a dwelling, on the second floor there's a dwelling, and the third floor there's a dwelling, and there may be 10-15 of those dwellings within that building, if not more. Then we see other buildings like the townhouse style you reference, maybe 6 or 8 or 10 in a building that are 1, 2 or 3 stories or more in each unit. I'm wondering though if we should consider whether that should be allowed anywhere that residences are allowed, or only allowed in certain places. And having said that, always be cognizant of the population growth, but also of our legislation. I find it something that we perhaps need to consider. Why would a country pass legislation that says that a particular crime committed in a particular area attracts more serious penalties, whether terms of imprisonment and the like, than the same crime committed in a different area, allowing the populace to infer and speculate, well, it must be because over here it's the color of the skin, it's the nationality, it's the amount of money that the people perceive to have in this area versus the poor working class in this area. We have to wonder, are we segregating people even without consciously trying to?
Well, maybe that's the design. I don't know.
Right.
Because we're always last to know. We only get to see the outcome of the product. But I want to say this as well. Someone was speaking about a new residence for the governor.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're very familiar with this piece of property. It's right on the corner of Elgin and Hospital Road. It was owned by the Wintons.
Right.
And when that piece of property was for sale, I begged the government to purchase that piece of property. And the reason I felt no one else should own that property is because where it is situated, it's right next to immigration. Government had been building the police station just down the street. I said, what if someone decided to buy that property and the person turns out not to be who they claim to be? You'd realize they could hijack our country from that little piece of property. And I said, why don't they purchase that and build what you call a diplomatic mansion so that when you have other, leaders come here, you don't have to pay for a hotel for them, and you could have like a little breakfast and thing downstairs with a sort of souvenir shop and so on. And then they don't have to walk. You don't have to send a driver for them. They're right there. And, I just always saw it as being dangerous if it was owned by someone else. And the response that I got was that the government didn't need it. That when they wanted to buy it to expand immigration parking lot, the owners didn't want to sell it, and now they had no need for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, with that kind of thinking, that is why we can keep running into these kinds of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know who else shares my view. That no one else except our government should have been in ownership of that piece of property.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it makes sense, and this is why when I referenced the comment about a new residence for the governor, as you shared, that would allow visiting dignitaries, whether from the UK or other places, to be housed within there. It allows, as you shared, so much more to be considered because your purpose-built facility can accommodate. So again, the sort of discussions that we should be having in a very objective, meaningful way that leads to some positive outcome, as opposed to this, biting back and forth kind of thing that we get into, right?
And I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. I said diplomats. I meant dignitary.
No, but no, I think it's it still applies to the same thing too, because
I misspoke with that word.
Yeah, but even diplomats too. No, it's a good. I think it's appropriate.
And like I said, I just saw it as a way that it would be cost effective, and I saw it as a security measure for our country.
Yeah, man.
And I don't know who the owner is. I've heard, but I don't know. I'm just happy to say that based on who I heard bought the property, I believe I can feel a little bit better that that might not turn out to, my fear might not be realized. And as far as our governor having different residents, I'll tell you another feeling that I've always had, and maybe a lot will disagree with me. I always feel that our premier, whomever he is or she is, should have a special residence also. And they should be chauffeured, And they, as long as we're a crown territory, if you want to call it that, then I suppose we're going to have a governor. Now, should he be on the beach? I don't know. That's up to the government.
But the thing is, right, as you say that, and again, these are discussions that the present administration, future administrations, perhaps even aspiring politicians, but just put social commentary. And I say this again, look at how and when and why we were building our cemeteries on the beach, right? And maybe the time is now that we consider not just moving the cemeteries and how we build them. Why not, instead of having one plot there, why not do like other places where there are 4 or 5 plots high, like a mausoleum, like on the outside? Why not consider a bespoke or purpose-built, facility, residence for the office or for the governor, and then take that, as I suggested, existing structure, and let it be a cultural center, a day center, emphasizing our maritime heritage that our seniors and our seafarers in particular can use. It serves as a museum. It serves as a testament. These are things to be discussed now. The wider community are going to rally behind something because it's being said by someone, or cry it down because it's being said by somebody else. But let's get beyond that and let's look at the merits of something. Let's deconstruct it, find the good, if there's any, in what is being said and done, and make it better.
As I said, any nonsense I throw there, if somebody finds sense in it, they're happy to run with it and they can claim it.
Yeah.
They don't have to give me credit for it.
Yeah.
But I would like to endorse one thing that one of your previous callers said, and that is about a cemetery for our veterans.
Right.
And our seamen could be put there also, and have it so that, if they have a spouse, they can join them. If they so choose. Now, if the family prefers to have them buried, say like in a family plot,
that's
entirely up to them.
Right.
But as an honor, yes, that is something that should have been done a long time ago. And it is not too late to do it. They can still do it, All the money that is being spent in other places, which I deem unnecessary, most of it at this time, that is a consideration and a way of honoring them,
Right. Yeah, and again, this is where these discussions, like we said, my mama says, try to pick sense from nonsense, and let's find the good and stuff. But always a pleasure to talk to you. Always an honor to hear the things you have to share. So you always have the open invitation to let us know what you're thinking. All right.
You would need a whole month for that.
Well, you know what, man? Maybe I can arrange a sabbatical and you can come and sit in the chair. All the best to you, huh?
Okay.
All right. Take care. You know, it's for me a blessing, a true privilege and pleasure. And if I can make it better, you share your counsel with me. It's about humility, not necessarily seeking honor. It's about a sense of integrity. It doesn't mean that I don't fail nor fall. And hopefully there's not much folly. But it isn't the fall that should fear us. It's the failure to get up. So let's persevere. As we press on, let's do it together. Let's find ways to build a stronger community by uniting. Let's find a way that as we critique things, we do it constructively. Let's find a way that as we move forward in unison, knowing that we're looking for two things. The collective good, but also the respect and responsibility of recognizing the importance of the individual. It takes two hands to clap. And if we clap together for each other, celebrating our successes, and then we can feel that we have achieved and attained something worthy of note. Our society is only as good as the individual who is able to stand and shout and proclaim loudly that there is this right to cheer as well as to complain. But let's not let the complaint be so destructive and vicious and negative that we no longer represent or reflect what is a healthy democracy. Tomorrow is Friday, I'm told, and I trust and pray that we'll be a part of it as we invite you to share with us. Make a note of the numbers to call, 949-8037, 1-800-534-TALK, that Flow toll-free line, and use it. If you can't access it, well, let us know so that we can fix it. If it's being interfered with maliciously and deliberately, well, that should not be, and it isn't. And if it's because there is a gremlin in the system, well, we'll remove it. Now, as you stay tuned to listen to the wonderful easy listening songs until 3, make sure you catch us on the Super Jam so that you can truly enjoy what will be played between that 3 and 4 sort of, was it local nation part of the block? All right, man. And got a WhatsApp that came through that we will probably share in tomorrow's discussion. So that we can give it justice. Thank the listener for doing that. It talks about covenants and so on. And you know what? Maybe this listener would give us a chance to join us at a certain point. All right. Until tomorrow, my friends. Be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway. Open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay.